No one in the frontier colony ever looked twice at the vet. He lived near the edge of the settlement, in a small metal cabin beside the animal pens. Every morning, he walked the same dusty path with a medical bag in one hand and a calm look on his face. He treated injured livestock, stitched up hunting beasts, and spoke softly to creatures others feared. People said he was charming in a quiet way, too polite, too calm, and very human. That was why the laughter started when he stepped into the council square that evening. The colony had gathered around a damaged transport ship. Smoke still rose from its cracked hull. Armed guards stood alert, weapons humming with low energy. Whispers moved fast through the crowd. Raiders had crossed the border again. The vet stopped at the edge of the circle, his sharp eyes scanning the scene. He noticed things others missed. The burn marks on the metal were not random. The angle of impact was wrong. This was not a simple raid. This was a warning. A young woman stood near the guards, her arms crossed tightly. Her uniform marked her as council blood. Her posture showed confidence, but her eyes held fear she tried to hide. When she turned and saw the vet watching, her lips curved into a playful smile. "Well," she said loudly, stepping closer. "Didn't know animal doctors were invited to war meetings now." Some people chuckled. The vet smiled back, easy and polite. "Injuries don't care where they come from." She laughed and leaned closer. "Relax, I'm joking. You're brave for coming here, though." Her tone changed slightly, curious, interested. Behind her, an older man watched in silence. His hair was gray, his face hard with years of command. He was her father, the colony leader, a man who had survived 3 wars and buried friends without tears. When his eyes met the vet's, something shifted. The leader smiled. Not warmly, carefully, like a man watching a loaded weapon resting on a table. The vet felt it too. He met the leader's gaze and gave a small nod, respectful but equal. That alone made the guards uneasy. No one nodded to the leader like that. Before anyone could speak again, the ground trembled. A deep vibration rolled through the square. Lights flickered. Children screamed. The guards raised their weapons as the sky darkened. Ships broke through the clouds. Not human ships. Their hulls were jagged, built for war, not travel. Red symbols burned along their sides. The crowd froze as alarms screamed through the colony. The unexpected war had arrived. Energy blasts struck the outer shield. The impact threw people to the ground. The vet grabbed the young woman's arm and pulled her behind a steel barrier as debris rained down. "You should run," she said breathlessly. "This isn't your fight." He didn't answer. Instead, he watched the sky with calm focus, his jaw tight, his eyes glowing faintly gold before fading again. The leader noticed. More ships descended. The shields cracked. Guards fired back, but their shots barely scratched the enemy hulls. These were not raiders. These were hunters. One blast tore through a residential block. Screams echoed through the smoke. The vet moved without thinking. He ran toward the fire. He dragged wounded civilians to safety. He sealed burns with quick hands. He lifted crushed beams as if they weighed nothing. People stared, shocked, but too afraid to question it. The young woman followed him, eyes wide. "How are you doing that?" "Adrenaline," he said calmly. But his breathing never changed. A massive enemy unit landed beyond the square. The ground cracked beneath its weight. Its armor was black and bone-like, its eyes glowing red. It sniffed the air slowly, then turned its head toward the vet. The creature smiled. "Found you," it growled in a deep, ancient voice. The guards fired. Their shots bounced harmlessly off its armor. With one swing, the creature sent 3 soldiers flying. Panic exploded through the crowd. The vet stepped forward. "Stay back," he said quietly. The leader shouted, "Are you insane?" The vet didn't look at him. His eyes stayed locked on the creature. "You crossed into protected territory," the vet said. "You were warned." The creature laughed. "You hide as a healer now? A pet doctor? You shame your blood." The words hit the square like thunder. The crowd froze. The young woman turned slowly toward the vet. "What is it talking about?" The vet exhaled slowly. His shoulders straightened. His calm smile faded, replaced by something older, something heavy. He removed his jacket and placed it gently on the ground. The air changed. A low growl rolled from his chest, not loud, but deep enough to shake the metal around them. His eyes burned gold again, brighter this time. The ground beneath his feet cracked as his body shifted, muscles tightening, power pressing outward like a storm held back for too long. The leader closed his eyes for a moment. So it's true, he thought. The creature bowed slightly. "Wolf Heir," it said. "Your war has found you." The vet looked at the terrified people behind him, the colony, the animals, the children he treated every week, the quiet life he had chosen. Then he looked back at the enemy. "No," he said softly. "You brought the war here." And for the first time since the ships appeared, the enemy hesitated. Because the Wolf Heir had stopped hiding. The silence after his words felt heavier than the explosions. Smoke drifted through the square. Fires burned unchecked. People stood frozen, staring at the man they thought they knew. The quiet vet, the gentle healer. The one who spoke more to animals than to people. The Wolf Heir. The enemy creature straightened slowly, its red eyes narrowing. "You abandoned your throne," it said. "You abandoned your people." "I chose peace," the Wolf Heir replied. His voice was steady, but the air vibrated with power. "You chose to follow me." The creature snarled and lunged. It moved fast. Faster than any human could track. The Wolf Heir met it head-on. The impact shook the ground. A shockwave ripped outward, throwing debris and bodies aside. The Wolf Heir dug his feet into the cracked stone and held his ground. His hands locked around the creature's armored arms, metal screaming as it bent. The guards stared in disbelief. No weapons, no armor, just raw strength. With a sharp twist, the Wolf Heir threw the creature across the square. It smashed into a transport wreck, tearing the hull open like paper. Before it could rise, he was already there, striking once clean and precise. The creature went still. For a moment, there was no sound except fire and distant alarms. Then the sky roared. More enemy units dropped from the ships. Smaller ones this time, fast and vicious. They spread through the colony, hunting civilians, cutting off escape routes. The Wolf Heir turned to the people behind him. "Get underground," he said. "Seal the shelters. Don't open them for anyone." The leader hesitated. "You can't fight an army alone." The Wolf Heir looked at him. "I won't be alone." He tilted his head back and released a low, powerful howl. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The sound moved through the air, through metal, through bone. It traveled far beyond the colony walls, across frozen plains and dark forests, into places humans had never mapped. Something answered. Far away, shapes moved in the shadows. The young woman watched him, heart pounding. "You planned this?" "I prepared," he said. "There's a difference." An explosion tore through the east side of the colony. The Wolf Heir sprinted toward it, moving faster than sound. She followed as best she could, ducking behind cover, helping wounded civilians when she could. She saw him change as he fought. Not fully, but enough. Claws flashed. His eyes burned bright gold. His movements were sharp and controlled, like a king who had fought wars before and learned the cost of every strike. Enemy units fell one by one. Still, there were too many. A blast struck him from behind, sending him crashing into a building. The structure collapsed, burying him under steel and stone. The enemy units turned toward the shelters, weapons charging. The leader's breath caught. No. The rubble shifted, then exploded outward. The Wolf Heir rose from the wreckage, blood running down his arm, his breathing heavy now. He wiped the blood away and looked at the enemy ships above. His calm cracked, just slightly. "So," he said quietly, "you want a war." The ground trembled again. From the northern ridge, massive shapes appeared. Wolves, Huge armored beasts with glowing eyes and battle scars etched into their armor. They moved in formation, silent and deadly. The pack had come. The enemy units faltered. The Wolf Heir raised his hand, and the wolves stopped instantly. "This colony is under my protection," he said, his voice carrying across the battlefield. "Leave now, and you live." The ships answered with fire. The wolves charged. What followed was chaos. The pack tore through enemy lines with brutal precision. They didn't waste movement. They didn't roar in rage. They fought like soldiers who had done this too many times. The Wolf Heir fought at the center, directing them with subtle movements and sharp glances. This was not instinct. This was command. The young woman realized something then. He wasn't hiding because he was weak. He was hiding because he was tired. A blast struck near her, throwing her to the ground. Pain shot through her leg. She tried to stand and failed. An enemy unit noticed. It moved toward her, weapon humming. The Wolf Heir saw it. For the first time, fear crossed his face. He moved, too late. The enemy raised its weapon and froze. The leader stood between them, holding an old energy rifle with shaking hands. "She's my daughter," he said. The enemy laughed. Then the Wolf Heir was there. One strike. The enemy fell. The Wolf Heir knelt beside the young woman, his hands gentle again. "You're hurt." "I'm fine," she lied. He smiled faintly. "You're terrible at that." He lifted her easily and carried her toward safety. As he did, she looked at him differently now, not as a mystery, but as a burdened protector. Above them, the enemy ships began to pull back. This was not the war they expected. But as the Wolf Heir watched them retreat, his expression darkened. This wasn't over. They hadn't come to win. They had come to confirm something. And now they knew exactly where he was. The night after the battle felt unreal. Fires still burned in the distance, but the enemy ships were gone. The colony stood wounded, yet alive. People moved quietly, helping each other, clearing rubble, tending to the injured. No one spoke loudly. No one laughed. And no one looked at the vet the same way again. He stood at the edge of the medical shelter, washing blood from his hands. The water ran dark red, then clear. His face showed no victory, only exhaustion. The wolves waited nearby, silent and watchful. They did not roam. They did not celebrate. They guarded. The leader approached him slowly. For the first time, his voice carried uncertainty. "You should have told us." The Wolf Heir didn't turn. "You wouldn't have let me stay. That wasn't your decision to make." The Wolf Heir finally faced him. "It was the only way to protect your people without ruling them." The leader studied him carefully. "You ran from your crown." "I buried it," the Wolf Heir replied. "Along with everything it cost me." Before the leader could respond, alarm sounded again. Not loud, not panicked, controlled. A signal breach. The Wolf Heir's body tensed. He moved to the command terminal, his fingers flying across the screen. His calm faded as unfamiliar symbols appeared. A transmission forced its way through. A tall figure filled the display. Its armor was silver, marked with ancient symbols older than the colony itself. Its eyes burned with cold intelligence. "Wolf Heir," the figure said smoothly. "You look smaller without a throne." The room went silent. The young woman stood beside her father, her leg bandaged, her face pale. "Who is that?" The Wolf Heir's voice dropped. "The one who killed my family." The figure smiled. "Correction. I killed your future." The Wolf Heir clenched his fists. The metal table beside him bent inward slightly. "You weren't supposed to find me." "We didn't," the figure replied calmly. "You revealed yourself." The leader stepped forward. "If this is your enemy, then you brought them to us." The Wolf Heir didn't deny it. "Yes." The word hung heavy in the air. "But I stayed," he continued. "I protected your people. And I will finish this." The figure tilted its head. "You always were sentimental. That weakness cost your world." Images flashed across the screen. A burning city. Wolves falling in battle. A throne shattered. The young woman covered her mouth. You were a king. I was, the Wolf Heir said quietly. And I failed. The transmission ended abruptly. Moments later, one of the guards rushed in. Sir, we found something in the rubble near the east shelter. They led them outside. A body lay half covered in debris. Not an enemy. A colony engineer. His eyes were open, lifeless. The Wolf Heir knelt, sniffed the air once, then froze. This wasn't done by the invaders, he said. The leader's voice tightened. Then who? Someone inside, the Wolf Heir replied. Fear spread through the gathered crowd. The wolves growled low. A second body was found, then a third. All killed cleanly, quietly. A hunter had slipped through. The Wolf Heir straightened slowly. They sent a tracker. Not to fight me, to study you, the young woman said softly. To see who you'd protect, he answered. The realization hit hard. This wasn't a battle, it was a test. The leader turned to the Wolf Heir. What happens now? The Wolf Heir looked across the colony. At the shelters. At the injured. At the children watching him with fear and hope mixed together. They will come again, he said. With everything. Silence followed. Then the leader spoke. Then you'll lead us. The Wolf Heir shook his head. I won't rule humans. I'm not asking you to, the leader said. I'm asking you to stand with us. The Wolf Heir studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. Very well. That night he walked alone beyond the colony lights. The wolves followed at a distance. He stood beneath the stars and closed his eyes. He remembered the throne room, the cheers, the blood, the betrayal from those he trusted most. He remembered choosing exile over endless war. A shape emerged from the shadows. A woman. Not human. Her eyes glowed faintly silver. You should have stayed hidden, she said. You're late, the Wolf Heir replied calmly. She smiled sadly. They sent me to kill you, and? He asked. She stepped closer. I couldn't. The wolves tensed. She knows, the Wolf Heir said quietly. About the colony, the woman nodded. They plan to erase it. Make an example. The Wolf Heir looked back toward the distant lights of the colony. His jaw tightened. I won't run again, he said. The woman's voice softened. Then you will die. Maybe, he replied. But not alone. The wolves stepped forward, forming a silent wall behind him. For the first time in years, the Wolf Heir felt something stir in his chest. Not rage, resolve. The war he tried to escape had finally caught him. And this time, he would end it on his terms. The final attack did not come with warnings, no alarms. No sky full of ships. It came quietly. The colony slept under dim lights, exhausted from loss and repair. Guards stood at their posts, alert but tired. The Wolf Heir stood on the outer ridge, watching the horizon with sharp, restless eyes. He felt it before it happened. The air shifted. The ground vibrated once, softly. Then reality tore open. A massive gate split the sky above the colony, glowing with cold white light. Ships poured through not dozens, but hundreds, perfectly aligned. Silent, confident. This was not a raid. This was extermination. The Wolf Heir exhaled slowly. So you chose erasure. The wolves howled as one. The colony erupted into chaos. Shields rose, weaker than before. Civilians rushed underground. The leader stood at the command post, hands steady despite the fear in his eyes. They're not holding back, he said. They won't, the Wolf Heir replied. Because I won't. The first strike hit the shields, shattering them instantly. Enemy units dropped straight into the colony streets. No warnings, no demands. The Wolf Heir moved. This time he didn't hold back. His form shifted fully, muscles expanding, claws forming, power tearing through his body like a storm finally released. He stood tall, no longer hiding what he was. The Wolf King returned. He charged into the enemy lines faster than weapons could track. Each strike was clean, final. He fought not with rage, but with purpose. Around him, The wolves followed his commands without words, forming living walls around civilians, cutting down threats before they could reach shelters. The enemy commander appeared near the center of the colony. The silver-armored figure from the transmission stepped forward, untouched by the chaos. "You chose them over your kind," it said calmly. "I chose life," the Wolf King answered. The commander raised a device. "Then watch it end." A pulse spread outward. Wolves fell mid-stride. Human weapons shut down. The colony went dark. The Wolf King staggered, pain ripping through him. He dropped to one knee. The commander smiled. Still tired. Still broken. The young woman watched from behind cover, terror freezing her chest. "Get up," she whispered. The leader stepped forward, weapon useless in his hands. "You want him?" he shouted. "Then take me instead." The commander didn't even look at him. The Wolf King looked at the people around him. The humans who had never asked him to be a king. The children he healed. The leader who stood his ground. The woman who once joked with a vet and now stood ready to die. He understood then. This was never about a throne. It was about choice. He pushed himself up, ignoring the pain tearing his body apart. "You forgot something," he said. The commander tilted its head. "What?" "I am not alone." The Wolf King slammed his clawed hand into the ground. A signal pulsed outward, not through machines, but through blood. Every wolf still standing rose again, eyes blazing brighter than before. Their wounds closed. Their strength doubled. The commander's calm cracked. "Impossible. Humanity does that to you," the Wolf King said. "It changes you." The wolves charged again, stronger, faster. The enemy lines broke. Human guards fought beside them now, weapons working again, fueled by systems they didn't understand but trusted. The Wolf King faced the commander alone. Their clash shattered the ground. Power slammed into power. The commander struck with precision, ancient skill honed over centuries. The Wolf King answered with raw force and hard-earned wisdom. The fight dragged on, brutal and personal. "You could have ruled everything," the commander hissed. "I rule myself," the Wolf King replied. With a final strike, he tore the device from the commander's chest. The pulse ended. The enemy ships froze mid-air, then began to fall lifeless. The commander collapsed, staring up in disbelief. The Wolf King stood over it, breathing hard. "This ends here." He delivered one final blow. Silence followed. Slowly, the colony lights flickered back on. Ships burned in the sky as they fell beyond the horizon. Enemy bodies lay still. The war was over. The Wolf King collapsed to one knee, his strength finally giving out. The young woman ran to him, catching him before he fell. "You stayed," she said through tears. He smiled weakly. "I promised." The wolves surrounded them, forming a protective circle. The leader approached and knelt not in fear, but respect. "You saved us," he said. The Wolf King shook his head. "You saved yourselves. I just stood with you." At dawn, the Wolf King stood at the edge of the colony again. His form was human once more. Tired, scarred. The leader joined him. "Will you leave?" The Wolf King looked back at the pens, the clinic, the people rebuilding together. "No," he said softly. "I think I've run enough," the leader smiled. "Then welcome home." The wolves settled nearby, peaceful now. And the colony that once thought a quiet vet lived among them finally understood the truth. They had never been protected by a secret king. They had been protected by someone who chose to be human.